Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. The record show today is November the 30th, 2020. The time is 9:00 a.m. I would like to invite for the last time Ms. Kara to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That would be her last time because Friday will be her last day as administrative assistant. So thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate it and for all your work. Madam Clerk to the board, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Commissioner Flower,
Present.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner Prince,
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith,
Present.
Clerk to the board Kelly Camper, present.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Amendments to the agenda, gentlemen.
I have not, sir.
I don't either.
There was some discussion about the possibility of requiring an executive session. I spoke to Clint briefly this morning. I don't get the sense that we probably need one, but go ahead, sir.
Well, as far as an amendment to the agenda, I got an email from Patrick Welsh, the attorney for the Live and Goods and the Everts, saying, please remove us from the agenda today. I had a family matter come up that I am dealing with. I'll be unable to address this matter today. I'll also have limited access to my computer and the internet, so welcome aboard there.
Yeah.
He said he has a meeting later this week with his clients. And let's see. He said the visit to the property will not occur this week. It was scheduled sort of tentatively for Thursday. So perhaps you will want to remove that from the agenda. Since
is that consideration of land use violation?
Yes.
Okay. I would move that we strike consideration of land use violation from the agenda today.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to amend the agenda by striking consideration of land use violation. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Prince, sorry.
Aye.
I was trying to figure out how to strike a line through it this morning. And Flower votes aye. Motion carries. That agenda item has been deleted.
So do you want me to put that on a different agenda or you want me to wait and see?
I think we better wait and see. Don't you, Clint?
I'm assuming he's going to get back to me and give me another date when he would like, or for you, if you want to. It's not mandatory to go out and do a site visit.
Yeah. Obviously, Tuesday and Wednesday next week we have meetings. So I don't know how we come up with a date that would work. I didn't ever remember talking about the 3rd. Is that a meeting he suggested?
Just in the email.
That was the date that he was offering.
Okay.
He has that email.
Any further amendments?
No, sir.
Okay, we will move on. Don't believe we have any minutes. Commissioner items? Kanda?
Sure, just a real quick, been pretty busy. The airport board met after our last meeting. I mentioned we were on track. We still are on track for the 18th on that AWAS. The weather observation system is being put in, and all checks have been put in and are being reimbursed by the Department of Transportation Aeronautics Division. So everything's looking good there. Also glad to see the concrete apron for the ops building is been done right. It looks good. And we did have a Board of Health meeting last, the 24th. It was also very interesting. And I did work the PIO for the county job description and working that, finalizing it with Donna. We'll try to get that out as soon as we can. It would be for the county job, as well as the all of it, OEM, public health, and anything else that would have to have. So I'm modifying that job description to do that. And are we meeting for the CARES initiative? Is that tomorrow? Still on?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
We have on the agenda a little later the consideration of the PIO position. We've had a job description. I've
Yeah.
read it multiple times.
I've got a
Are
new.
you trying to modify
Yeah, I'm
that?
trying to modify it to make, we wanted to make it a county one, and there's some specific things. So
This is county.
I know. I'll, when we get to that item, we can take a look at it. But there's a couple things that I thought we could do to modify that.
Oh, okay.
Make it
I
better.
got you.
That's all.
Okay.
I want to get it out and so I'll forward, let me forward what I got to you guys so you can have it. I just got it last night. Working.
Anything else, sir?
Nah. Not, it's no.
Mr. Prince?
Well, thank you. I also attended the Board of Health meeting and handled a lot of things. I don't have anything really specific to discuss other than there's a gentleman that you and I have worked on, Tom, who was concerned about pricing at the landfill. I think we left it where he was satisfied in terms of he was going to do a little more investigation to find out if our fees at the landfill are being applied appropriately to the folks who bring refuse to the landfill. And I told him that we would work with him based on what he finds, if there's something that needs to be discussed further. So, that's really all I did. It's kind of a quiet week. I attended the task force meeting that I think has resolved now. That's basically all I've done.
Good. I don't have anything to report. Other than the obvious public health meeting. Anything for strategic plan or
Well,
CVRF?
let me also say, we've got that briefing with the Justice Center grant coming up on the 3rd. Also have a highway and byways meeting. It's supposed to be on the 3rd, the board of directors, so I got to deconflict one or the other to see what the highways one, that would be the one I'm definitely going to do the Justice Center briefing. It's going to be it's not Zoom, it's another system, and they're going to still train me on it.
WebEx.
WebEx, yeah. It's not a big deal. But I don't have, I did mention the strategic plan before, and I'm going to ask, Cheryl did update the graphic, but I'm going to have her come in and after the new year with where we stand.
Attorney Adams?
Primarily, I'd like to talk about the light on the first tower here, the flashing light. It took me a while to get back in touch with the fellow I've been working with. He and I exchanged emails. Apparently, they can't shut down one light, the flashing light, without also shutting down the IFR light. And he actually went ahead and has already put the wheels in motion to do that. In fact, he said that it would be either today or tomorrow that the light would be deactivated. But that does mean there's no IFR. They were operating without that from the time the tower went up until the time that flashing light started. So I don't know how essential it is, but Commissioner Flower did communicate that to the EMS and search and rescue and the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District, that flashing light would be deactivated, but also the IFR. He said they're working on a fix where they could, install IFR only. And hopefully they'll be able to get that done, because I think that is useful for incoming helicopter traffic at night. But hopefully as of tonight or tomorrow night, there won't be a flashing red light there anymore. And I'll keep you posted on where we're gonna be going with that. Which reminds me, Kara, did you get the email I sent you about that letter?
Yes, and I'll talk to that after the meeting, but yes, I did.
Right.
That's confirmed.
He never got the letter that you and I had sent.
Right. Karen and I talked about that a little bit. You did not have that copy.
I didn't have a signed copy, so I needed her to hopefully, just give me, if you could just scan it in and email it to me, I'll forward it to him. He just wanted the signed copy for his file to show that this was the result of official action.
And I looked for my copy unless I put it somewhere that I'm not.
If need be, I can always print it out again and we can both sign it again.
So you do have a copy of it,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not the signed copy.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
I
it.
couldn't find a signed copy either, so.
All right, well, he went ahead and did it anyway, but he didn't want something for the file, so I'll make sure we get that taken care of.
Okay.
Other than that, I did some extensive legal research last week, sent you a confidential legal memorandum, which we may or may not need to talk about at some point in time, but I had come up with some more information I wanted to share with you. And I guess that's everything I've done since our last meeting.
Okay. So jump ahead a little bit, when we get down on the agenda, do you feel comfortable in us discussing what you had mentioned in that memo to us or no?
I am comfortable discussing it. If you want to do it on the public record as one of the agenda items today, we can certainly do that.
Well, we might need to discuss it when we reconsider the SUP.
Right.
Okay, and
And that makes sense because it's,
Mark,
well, that's fine, because it
It
applies
applies.
there and it applies to another agenda item that we're not going to discuss
Right.
today, so.
and that was the whole question about whether or not we need an executive session.
because we can wait
during the
if it
agenda.
makes more sense.
Well, I think I assume you all understood it. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. It was just something that I just discovered I should have known sooner. And as I told you, I feel
Yeah,
that it's my fault for not having had that information available to me from the get-go. And I can certainly state that at the time when we get to it.
okay, well, yeah, if and when it's appropriate to talk about that document, I may ask you again if you feel comfortable in us talking about that outside of executive session, and we'll deal with it then.
Okay, well, I prefer transparency at all.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just, in case you had any questions or anything, that's what the executive session is for.
Right. Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
I would guess, because this would be the last BOCC meeting that Ms. Kara would ever attend as an administrative assistant, that she probably got something, but I'll ask her. Anything from the administrative assistant today?
Well, no, I just would like to say thank y'all for everything that y'all done for me while I've been here. I have very much enjoyed working here. I've learned a lot. This is definitely a foreign world to me, coming into this, but I've really appreciated and loved my time here. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for a good job.
And you are going into the home health business.
I am.
What is the name of your business?
Peaks of Hope Home Health. Sorry, it's hard.
That's right.
Peaks of Hope Home Health.
Peaks of Hope Home Health. Well, good luck.
You want to put out the phone number in case?
Yeah.
Can't call me.
Yeah, well, good luck. Thank you very much. You have been a blessing to this office, and we will miss you severely. So,
Thank you very much.
I concur completely.
Thank
anything else, ma'am?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment. If anybody on the Zoom has anything they want to address the commissioners with, now would be the appropriate time. Or that are in the hallway live. Nothing, okay, all right, good. We'll move on. Any unfinished business I'm not aware of, gentlemen?
I have none.
Nor do I. Mr. Kanda?
None here.
We'll move on to new business. We will allow for public comment on any of the action items on the agenda prior to any vote being taken by the commissioners. So our first item of business, consideration of approving vouchers and signing the checks.
I've had a chance to look at them and I did get a copy, but I got lost too, Jay. I don't know what happened to it.
I don't have them.
But anyway, I move that we accept and approve the vouchers that are presented.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers for November 2020. That amount, Ms. Kelly, is $577,857.66. $572,857.66. Further discussion? Yes, sir.
I don't have it in front of me, but I noticed that there was $40,000 expenditure for the towers. I'm assuming that was a pass-through. Do we know that?
Yes, that's out of that $98,000. That was for selective site services, the work they've done.
Okay. And I also noticed that there was a $5,000 tough shed purchase that was made. I believe it was from the Office of Emergency Management. I was wondering if that was a budgeted item or.
Gentlemen, I have some information on that if you needed it.
Yeah, it was not for OEM. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
It was actually purchased by Public Health. It was COVID relief money, not the specific CARES Act money, but a different budget a different fund for Public Health. And it was purchased so that they could have some more room over there at that building.
Is that a pass-through then?
I believe so, sir.
Okay, so they received a grant for that amount of money and then they spent it. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I have
Part of
no
the
issue
grant.
with it, and that's what it's for. Okay, thank you, Vern.
Do you know where it's going to be located, Vern?
I believe that they have a permit for it out near where the trailer is parked
Okay.
at this time.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Vern.
Appreciate it. Any other?
Those are the only two that jumped out at me.
Yeah. Yeah, I had called Ms. Donna and asked her about that tough shed. And it did say that it was out of COVID relief money, but it didn't say what department. So,
Thank you.
yeah, it was Public Health, not Office of Emergency Management.
My mistake.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else? Any other discussion?
No.
Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Commissioner Flower, aye. Commissioner Kanda.
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries. Those have been approved. And we have a plan this morning, Ms. Carey, to deal with these, or?
Yes, I will take them. Donna is still here right now.
Oh, is she? Okay.
She is.
If you have not, you're not aware, Donna Hobby's father passed away yesterday in Pueblo, so she's going to be on an abbreviated schedule today, for sure.
Our condolences to her, of course, and the rest of her family.
Yeah, for sure.
Gentlemen, if there's no objection, could we ask Ms. Carey if she could order some flowers today?
Absolutely.
Probably not going to be a service, so I would say maybe we ask Flower Shop to just deliver them to Yeah, I was gonna say the office, but she may not be here, so if we can get her home address, see if we can get them delivered, that'd be great.
Unless she has a fund she'd rather have it put to. We could ask her. And delivery, huh?
Yes, sir.
They're all initial.
Just give it to Kara if you would, please.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Next item of business, reconsideration of the Westcliff Meats special use permit. Let me back up. Parliamentary rule states that in order for any member of a group to move to reconsider an item, they must have voted on the prevailing side. When we last voted on this, it carried 3 in favor, none against. So any of the commissioners would have the authority and be within the rules to move to reconsider if that's the group's pleasure. Yes, sir.
Thank you. First, let me thank Clint for very lucid, clear understanding of what's involved in what's going on. And as a result, I believe that the 3 of us made an error when we assessed a civil penalty under a zoning violation. As indicated under Article 20, Title 30 of the Solid Waste Act of Colorado, that is where the county would have its authority to assess a civil penalty for solid waste infraction if we felt that was appropriate. If you read thank you again, Clint, for this. If you read what solid waste infraction would be, I think it was very clear that illegal dumping of animal byproducts on private land that is not designed to accept that, it certainly falls within the violation of the Solid Waste Act. So what I'd like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, before one of us actually makes a motion, I would like to suggest, and I'm discussing now, that the 3 of us rescind and vacate the action we took at the last meeting regarding a zoning violation, and then reconsider or consider at that time a new civil penalty based upon the Solid Waste Act of Colorado. So I would like to open it. If we want to have that discussion before a motion's made, or I'll do it.
I'd like to discuss a couple
Yeah,
things.
it's fine.
Could you cite your Title 20 again for me? I
Yes,
didn't write that down.
Title 20, it's Title 30,
Right,
Article
okay.
20.
That's
My
what had
mistake,
me
I
do
apologize.
this. I was looking for
My
Article,
mistake.
or Title 20, and yeah, so it's Title 30,
30, Article 20.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other discussion before we,
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Jay. I researched this and then I sat down with Jackie, and then at that time Clint was there and we all started researching the statutes. At the time we made the vote, I was concerned, and that's why in the Board of Health meeting, I drew out the lines of authority on who was land use authorities, SUPs, and Board of Health authorities. I think it falls in, I think this really clears it up on where the authorities are and what the penalties can or can't be. And I know that we're trying to work the zoning regulations to be more clear. I think we were on shaky ground without having find SUP, we have from what I understand, we had the ability to either revoke, suspend, modify, were sort of the options. There was no, how do we charge, the fee or the penalty? So we do need to have that discussion. So I agree.
What's the group's pleasure?
Well,
I move that we reconsider, how do we want to say it? Reconsider the Westcliff
we need to
meeting.
rescind it,
Rescind it.
because I'm going to make a motion
Okay, go
in
ahead.
a minute for the song. Go ahead, you're fine.
Yeah, I move we
Well, we're
rescind
rescinding it, we're not
the
reconsidering.
previous, that's right. Resolution that we passed on the SUP violation.
Okay, it wasn't technically a resolution.
But it was.
That's why I wasn't
But
saying
it's
it.
not a,
It was an agreement.
It was-
The action of us approving the agreement
All right, that's right. It
included
wasn't-
several
because it wasn't
stipulations.
fine, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move that we rescind the agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to rescind the agreement that was presented to Westcliff Meats that included several stipulations. I can try to go through those. Obviously, there was a civil penalty levied in that, mentioned in that document,
Probation.
as well as probation and a reporting requirement to report the receipts of material being hauled to a certified landfill. Discussion? Yeah, I will support this motion to rescind for several reasons. I guess one would be that my concern about the amount, even though I voted in favor of that, upon looking back and thinking about that, I think we maybe unnecessarily even put that business in jeopardy from the financial aspect. And I think Westcliff Meats provides a service to this county that I would not want to be any part of shutting that down unless it was absolutely necessary. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that too. I agree. And I mentioned that at the time, it's an SUP violation. It needs to be in line with SUP type issues. And that in itself was out of line, as we mentioned already. So we can work that later.
So I would just also remind the commissioners, if this motion passes, everything dealing with that agreement goes away. If we want a different agreement, we would have to rewrite an agreement. And if that doesn't happen, then we would have to make decisions to the contrary. So anything else, gentlemen, before public comment? The motion to rescind. Well, comment? Check something real.
I guess I could have one briefly if it's appropriate at this time.
Go ahead, sir.
I said the last time I was here, and I thought that we needed to try to basically keep the business here, and that's what you folks are, you commissioners are doing. I've got some information. Apparently, I think Mr. Livengood has reseeded everything down there, and I don't know how accurate this is, so don't quote me on it, but I think Mr. Livengood has reseeded everything. I got a little bit of information that the Indians apparently are okay with what is going on, and some of the Navajos. There was a lot of talk last time about, well, what is their position on it? What do they want to do? And I don't think really anybody knows for sure. I think there was discussion last time about, let's write them a letter, have Mr. Smith write them a letter and ask them, well, what's your position on it? So to me, that sounds like a pretty good idea, just as a taxpayer here. And what I don't want this to cost the county anything. That's what I don't want, for sure. So I'd kind of like to see, the Indians a letter written and ask them, well, what are you guys doing? What's your take on this whole situation? And then get that sorted out. Now I hear that Mr. Livengood's attorney couldn't make it this morning. So that thing, his deal has been tabled. Seems to me this whole thing is kind of part and parcel of the same thing. That is the deal with Westcliff Beach and with the Livingoods. I would suggest if you table the Livengood thing, maybe table the Westcliff Beach thing till you sort the facts out, find out what this thing really costs the county, and then go make an agreement. But that's just me as a taxpayer and living in the county, not really a citizen, I guess, because I'm not a Colorado resident. But that's what I would ask.
Let
That's
me,
what I would.
just for the record, that's Matt Miles speaking. So
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
everybody
know
should have
Matt
introduced-
Miles.
I'm sorry, I should have made sure you did that.
Yeah.
Well, if I can just respond for a minute, Mr. Miles, my personal feeling is whatever the Navajo Nation feels is appropriate, that's the action they should take. And I think we need to understand where the Navajo Nation is involved with the county, not with Westcliff Meats. If they want to take some action with them, that's their business, not ours. So I feel we need to take care of Custer County business and let the Navajo Nation handle their business the way they see fit, unless they are coming to us saying, the county, it's your fault for not doing something or something like that. So I'm not so sure where this entwined with the Navajo Nation in this. I think we move forward with our actions, and where the chips fall, the chips will fall. That's kind of how I feel.
Obviously, I didn't make myself clear. That's what I meant as well.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
exactly.
and I didn't understand.
I didn't make myself clear. I
That's
mean,
fine.
as far as the county, Westcliff Meats problem with the Navajos, that's their problem.
Exactly.
That's not our problem.
I appreciate it. Unless it's some of the county's
It drags
projects
the
caused
county
that.
in it.
So
Well,
and
there,
that's yet to be determined fully.
right, and we don't understand the health impact of the stuff that's on the Indian Nation land. That would be a county, issue if it
There's
was.
been no
There's
testing.
been no testing. Go ahead.
I forgot to report, I did send a letter to a representative from the Navajo Nation was here a few months ago to inspect. I was out there with Jackie when that was being done. I did send a letter to that gentleman in Window Rock, Arizona, saying that we were getting ready to close our file, or Jackie was, with respect to the violation on the Livingood Ranch. But I requested on her behalf that she be allowed to go test the water in that well, which is what we discussed last time. And that if there was anything, he had any other input on this, to please let us know. So that he should have that letter by now, and we'll see what kind of a response we get.
Which reminds me, but what are we doing about testing? Who's paying for that?
$30.
The
I
testing
know it
is.
Somebody's got to do
Sorry.
it. Go ahead, Jackie.
The testing is only $30.
I know.
And I got a credit for $30, but we gotta have permission to go on the
Right.
Navajos. We can test the Livingoods anytime. But first of all, we're gonna go down to the Livingoods and do a site tour.
Well, you can only test the Livingoods after their attorney gives you permission to do that, which he has not. In the agreement that was sent to us, he said there would be no testing.
Oh, and
Very
that's
clearly
fine,
stated.
because that relieves the county. If Livingoods don't want their water tested, which I agree totally, they don't have to have their water tested. And if we got it in writing that the lawyer said they don't want the testing, then that covers us.
Correct.
Right.
My
So we're
assumption, when we talk about testing, as of right now, we're talking about the possibility of testing the livestock well on the Navajo Nation. That's the only
Right.
thing
Not the-
that's up for discussion. As Commissioner Prince pointed out, the attorneys indicated that he is not willing to allow that well, domestic well, to be tested as of right now. So Yeah, I think clearly this whole thing has three entities in Westcliff Meats, Live and Good LLC, and in the Navajo Nation. So today we are, right now anyway, we're talking strictly about the special use permit for the Westcliff Meats. Did you have something?
No,
I thought you were raising your hand.
no,
Sorry.
I was agreeing.
Okay. Further discussion or public comment on the motion to rescind the agreement that the commissioners put forth to Westcliff Meats? Hearing none, we will vote. All in favor of the motion to rescind, say aye. Commissioner Flower, aye. Commissioner Kanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. The previous action of approving an agreement to be sent to Westcliff Meats has been rescinded. That agreement now is null and void. Yes, sir.
Is it appropriate for me to make a motion at this time?
Yes,
Are you done?
I think
I
it
didn't
would be.
interrupt you. I
Yeah, it is.
apologize.
I'm finished with that. Yes.
Okay. I move that we do assess a civil penalty based upon Title 30, Article 20, the Solid Waste Act, which gives us the authorization to do such action against Westcliff Meats. Under the same conditions as the one that we just rescinded, with one additional item, that in the event that the COVID virus forces Westcliff Meats to shut down for a period of time, that any monthly civil penalty would be suspended during that period also, not forgiven, just suspended, and the expiration date would move however many months Westcliff Meats may be shut down. But my motion is, I move that we assess the civil penalty against Westcliff Meat, the amount of $81,000 to be paid over a 10-year period with a monthly fee of $675, and with all the provisions of the previous agreement in place, plus the one about suspending payment if the business is shut down as a result of COVID.
Let me ask a question, because you made a motion before we had a chance to discuss it a little bit. I don't want
Someone seconded.
I'm just asking point of order on the process. We're discussing the SUP.
SUP was resolved. That's done. This is not an SUP violation. It's a Solid Waste Act violation, is what I'm suggesting that this can't be.
If that's what you're looking at.
SUP is not involved at all now.
So we're not going to bring up the SUP ever
SUP
again.
is not coming in.
Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion to assess a civil penalty of $81,000 plus the existing conditions set forth in the prior agreement?
I don't want a second.
Hearing none, the motion will die for lack of a second, sir.
And the reason I didn't is because it's not on the agenda. The Westcliff Meats would deserve a lawyer sitting in here, or representation, or an expectation that we would need to publish it 24 hours ahead. That's why I asked.
I disagree completely.
I don't know.
Completely. We have the right to assess a penalty against anybody who violates the Solid Waste Act. That's our job. This is not a discussion. This is not a court of law.
Well,
This is an act that we're taking, and I think we have the right to do it. And it's fine if you feel that I'm out of line and you don't second it. I fully accept it. That's why we have three people in three different minds doing this. I'm good with that. But I think the SUP has nothing to do with it at this point. We rescinded that.
Yeah, I'm a little perplexed. I don't know, Clint, if that motion would have been in order if it got a second. Is that an extension of the business of Westcliff Meats SUP, or as Commissioner Kanda proposes, that it was not on the agenda and probably should not have been considered, or would not have been considered appropriately?
Well, you were rescinding the action relating to the SUP. I think the matter of the SUP is still very much on the table. It should be that you're rescinding the amount of the civil penalty. I mean, that was what I understood to be the primary focus of the motion. But you still need to take some action about either revoking, suspending, or modifying the SUP. And I think we need an agreement in effect, because what we're talking about here is a modification. So we still need to talk about the SUP and modifying it and adding a condition which includes a civil penalty along with the other conditions that were already in there.
See, and if I may respond real quick, I guess that's where I might take exception to Commissioner Prince's statement about the SUP is off the table.
On my motion only.
Okay, you're not saying as far as the
No, I was
agenda.
gonna make another motion that this would be the SUP would be contingent upon
Probation.
on adherence to whatever agreement we pass. So there were three things in my mind. One was rescind because we were not correct in doing that. Then going ahead and assessing it and then tying it to the SUP. That's the way that's the way my mind was working. And I could be totally wrong, but that's how I was thinking.
I think the chair would rule today that if there's motions pertaining to Westcliff meets and moving forward, that the chair should allow those. So it is on the agenda. So
Mr. Miller's here.
yeah, and so once we
That's right.
once
That's why
we get an agreement of how the commissioners want to proceed, then I was going to invite Mr. Miller
So-
in for any comments or
Do we want to have
questions
some
he may have.
discussion before we make a motion then at a time? How do we want to approach it? I would like to, because that helps us form the correct motion, discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, it goes against parliamentary rule, but I think it makes some sense for that very thing. We could probably be more succinct in making a motion, but Mr. Miller, would you care to come in and have comments, or you're more than welcome to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you're more than welcome.
You can come in and sit down, sir.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah, so I never expected it to go this far. And I would be more comfortable having an attorney involved, so is there any way we could do that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Wait for Clint to get
Yeah, I was
back,
gonna say,
because
let's wait for council
Why
to
did Clayton
come back.
my feeling would be,
here.
once an action is taken, if he wants to get legal counsel, let him get legal counsel.
Right.
But I don't think we're gonna make our action based upon what his legal counsel would say. That'd be my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, Mr. Miller, you're entitled to counsel anytime you want. It's no problem. If you feel that that's in your best interest, then you certainly have that right to do that. What we decide, I happen to agree with Commissioner Prince, what we decide here today doesn't have anything to do with whether you have an attorney or not.
Okay.
That would be what we decide. Council, just to bring you up to speed real quick, Mr. Miller said he would prefer to, I asked him to come in and make any comment or ask any questions if he'd like. And he said at this point, he thinks he probably does need to seek counsel. And at least Jay and I both agree, Bill has not voiced his opinion yet, that regardless of whether he has counsel or not, doesn't have anything to do with whether we move forward with what we're going to do here. In my line of thinking, if he wants to seek counsel, it would be in response to what happens here today. Is that accurate in your opinion, Clint?
That's fine. Just the proceeding as to what conditions to impose for him to keep his SUP is not something where he has a right to counsel under the Constitution. So
Right. Yeah. So
let me make a comment then, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this and with Clint and with Jackie. We do have an SUP violation. That's why I was trying to clarify it. And it was because it was in the conditions of that, the SUP. They didn't put it, went and disposed of the carcass somewhere else. And we have an issue too from me discussing this not with Jackie on from a sanitarian point of view, but from a planning and zoning point of view. We've got to make sure that the county is on solid ground as well. And that's what I discussed with Clint too, in that they're revising the regs. We do need what kind of violations are there possible for an SUP, so that we're not, I'm going to take this off so I can talk. So we can have a reasonable understanding of the magnitude and the severity of the violation or violations. And so it's reasonable to consider a revocation of
Revocation.
of the SUP itself, probation instead, or a modification. And we have never ever talked about the magnitude of the offense. And that's why I was upset, not upset, but concerned in the last one of trying to separate the violation for an SUP business license as opposed to the health hazard part of it. So in discussing that, Jackie, you made a comment. Go ahead. On
Well, go ahead and finish what you're saying.
the magnitude of the fine.
Chairman makes decisions.
Yeah.
and talks.
Of what's reasonable or what's proper in a case like this, that we need to apply evenly across all businesses that are applying and breaking or complying with their SUPs. And that's why I wanted to have the discussion on the SUP itself. Go ahead.
You finished, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we get down to kind of trying to get a grasp on exactly where we're at this point. And Ms. Jackie, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but Westcliff Meats did violate their SUP. They are not in violation of their SUP currently. Is that correct?
Correct, and I think that that's where we need to get back into the little perimeters. We are only here to discuss Westcliff Meats violation of their SUP.
Right.
And we are not here to discuss a solid waste violation, because the solid waste violation is cleaned up. Only we're talking about if we want to put conditions on their SUP, like we did last time, and if you want to assess them a fine. I do believe that the $81,000, this is my personal opinion, $81,000 was over the top. It's just like saying, I don't want to put Westcliff Meats out of business, but I'm going to assess them a huge fine where they have no choice but to go out of business. So I would like you to, when we go through the zoning resolution, we will do phases on penalties. But right now, we do not have that in our zoning, so it would be up to the commissioners to assess a fee to Westcliff Meats for violation of their, if they so choose. It doesn't say that they have to assess a fee.
Correct.
But the solid waste is cleaned up. In my mind, a solid waste penalty is only when you don't clean it up. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Clint, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a sentence out of the Solid Waste Compliance Assurance Unit. Solid Waste Authority in Colorado is shared between the state and the local jurisdiction, which would be Custer County in this case. Therefore, Custer County has solid waste authority to investigate the complaint, conduct the cleanup, and take appropriate enforcement. So with that being said, I think the solid waste portion of this is appropriate for the commissioners to consider, as well as the special use permit. I think we all agree on the special use permit falls certainly within the parameters of the commissioners. So
what you're saying then, Tom, is that there's the SUP violation, and then there's the solid waste violation that applies to Westcliff Meats. Right now, we're discussing the SUP.
Okay, well, if we're discussing SUP, we only have three options. Okay? Do nothing, let it keep going just the way it is. Suspend the SUP, put them out of business for some period of time, and I don't mean to be going that way. Or revoke it.
Or modify, I think it's.
No. Revoke it. You have three choices only.
Well,
We can always modify it. We can always modify it by agreement.
Right.
Okay, but our choices for a violation, Glenn, if I'm wrong, please tell me. Do nothing, suspend, or revoke.
It's,
yeah, and I see it differently with respect. I think according to the, what page are we on, Jackie? According to the plan,
62.
zoning resolution,
page 62,
the modification,
9.3.4.
thank you, the modification
No, I'm
clearly,
sorry, 9.3.4.
an SUP granted pursuant to this section may be suspended, revoked, or modified.
For a violation.
Yes, by the BOC after determining whether any condition, stipulation, or term of the approval of the use permit has been violated. I would also add to that, it's my opinion that those three things are on the table, four, if we include do nothing at all. And then I think also a civil penalty assessment falls within those same things. Clint, I look to you for clarification about that, but.
Because I understood what Clint had said, Tom, is exactly what you're saying, that there you could.
Okay,
Why don't you?
as far as the SUP goes, that's under the zoning resolution. You've already decided not to revoke or suspend, to keep it in effect, but to modify some of the conditions, and those were probation,
Right.
providing proof to Jackie on a monthly basis that everything is properly disposed of, all the solid waste. And the additional condition would be whether to impose a civil penalty. But the violation, essentially the violation that is giving rise to taking action against the SUP is a violation of the Solid Waste Act. So it implicates the Solid Waste Act, and that's where you find the precise language of the violation. And it also gives you the authority to take action under the Solid Waste Act. So you can exercise that authority in determining what condition you want to keep the SUP going. So you're looking at both. It's not one that's exclusive and the other isn't.
Right.
So back to the SUP part of it, then a reasonable, you said there still can be a reasonable civil penalty. Is that what you said?
Well, it
Part of
doesn't
the
say, the SUP says modifications.
Right.
The modification, one of the modification is to impose, if you decide, a civil penalty that would be appropriate. And that's where you look at, your guidance under the Solid Waste Act, where it talks about imposition of civil penalties and the factors you should consider if you're going to impose a civil penalty.
And that would be something in the future that Jackie was pointing out, that you would put a penalty options in possibly.
So
right now it's up to us.
Would we be, if we decided to impose a civil penalty, would we be doing it under the SUP or under the Solid Waste Act?
My belief is that it would be under the language of the Solid Waste Act, that's the civil penalty you'd be imposing. But it would be a condition of the SUP remaining in effect, but you're using your statutory authority under the Solid Waste Act to do that.
Because we can't do it just under the SUP.
Well, not under the SUP itself, under the zoning regulations
That's what I meant.
entirely, but I don't think it's a good fit under the zoning, or I think it's a better fit under the Solid Waste Act to impose a civil penalty. And specifically because of that part, when we're looking at the specific statute is 30-20-113. And when you get over to subparagraph 5, and specifically 5B, it says the department which is referring to the State Department of Public Health, but that's, they have expressly delegated to the county the authority to proceed. May enter into a settlement agreement regarding any penalty or claim. Any settlement agreement may include, but is not necessarily limited to, the payment or contribution of monies to state or local agencies for environmentally beneficial purposes. So we're looking at entering into a settlement agreement with Westcliff Meats under that statutory provision as a condition of keeping the SUP, keeping the permit valid. And I would submit that this is an agreement, a settlement agreement, that it's going to require Mr. Miller to agree to it. You can't just say we're imposing this. It's an agreement. His options are not good. He either accepts the terms of the agreement you propose to him, or you can decide, well, we're just going to go ahead and revoke you then if you don't want to agree to this.
Or we could decide to negotiate or not.
I mean, a settlement agreement generally is based more on negotiating, but in this case, I think you need to come up with a number, looking at the factors that are set forth just below that in 5.5, the seriousness of the violation, whether it was intentional, reckless, or negligent, the impact on the public health, the economic benefit realized by the violator as a result of his violation, which is essentially what you were looking at when you came up with $81,000 in the first place. It was a huge economic benefit to Westcliff Meats not to have to pay for the disposal for a period of time. But a settlement agreement, bottom line here is what number you come up with, you're presenting it to Mr. Miller. This is the agreement we want you to sign if you want to keep Westcliff Meat open for business. If you don't want to agree to this, then our option is to revoke your permit.
Or suspend it.
Or suspend it.
Yeah. I would move that we modify Westcliff Meats SUP by assessing a civil penalty under the authority of the Special Waste Act pertaining to his special use permit in the amount of $10,000 to be paid over a 3-year period, and to include the probation aforementioned, as well as the reporting of the receipts of disposal of the byproducts.
I'll second it.
The move and seconded to assess a civil, or to modify the special use permit to include assessing a civil penalty of $10,000 to be paid over a period not to exceed 3 years, and to require a 3-year probation period, and to include reporting to the Planning and Zoning Commission receipts of expenses to document proper disposal of the animal byproducts from the Westcliff Meats business. Discussion, gentlemen. 277.77. Go ahead, sir.
I think this would be a total lack of responsibility if this was approved. I think considering the conditions that were just read to us, the economic gain was $81,000. How egregious was this? It wasn't a one-time thing. It was 18 months. We got lucky that it didn't go into water supplies that we know of, but we don't know that for fact. We're just being told that at this point. So the public health could have been impacted. Total disregard for the public health, just dropping that stuff out there. If we assess an $81,000 penalty, all it's doing is making Westcliff Meats pay the amount of money they would have paid had they played the game properly. And what I mean by that is that's what it would have cost them to dispose of their byproducts in a legal manner. So anything less than $81,000 to me is a terrible decision. It opens up the door to say, hey, I might as well break the law because the penalty is going to be less than if I stole $10,000 and you assess the penalty of 5,000, I'm 5,000 ahead. I might as well break the law all day long. I feel this is a terrible decision if it's passed. I did agree to stretch this out for 120 months, which brings it to $675 a month. West Cliff Meats employs 26 families, including the owner. Okay, they're in the process of building a significant building on their site. If $675 is going to make or break this company, I feel that maybe they ought to reassess whether they're in business anyway. They have to be doing, this is my supposition, I'm just supposing now. I have to assume that since they're making a significant investment in another building on the site, that they have the funds to do this, or the business is warranting it, which means the business has increased to the point where they're building another one. I feel anything less than $81,000 is irresponsible. This group, I will vote nay, but I mean, this is a 3-person tribunal, and if that's what you want to do, that's what's going to happen.
It's not a tribunal.
Further discussion? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, what was the actual cost per month? I know there's some, we picked, no, he did. It wasn't $4,000 a month, period. It was 45 for X months, and it was something less than that for X month. I want to know what it actually was.
So the total savings was approximately 31,000. And we've spent 35 to 40,000 cleaning it up already.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Mr.
Take your mask off and talk.
He said his savings by not paying over the 18 months was 31,000.
Yes.
And how do we know that?
You have,
You've proven to us that you're not a truthful person, an honest guy. That's all I can say. I'm really kind of upset about what you did and the risk you took to the community.
Jay, let me talk.
Excuse me.
No,
I'm speaking right
I was
now.
asking him a question.
I am speaking right now.
Hold on.
No, I'm speaking. So I feel that you're dishonest. And the bottom line is you're telling us 31,000 now after you sent us a letter, it was 4,500 a month for 18 months. I don't know where you come up with 31,000. Go ahead, Bill. Say
Hey, I want to know the tonnage. He knows exactly what he shipped out of there during that period of time. And you were starting a business. I don't know how far you were in when you made the agreement in actually processing meat, but you knew when you started, you knew what the amount of weight was that you were shipping out of there. And you knew the number of trips, I assume. That's why I'm asking. And I want to know, as you grew in time, and it's sporadic throughout the year. There's heavier times when you process more, and there's times when you don't do anything.
Sure.
So if we're going to assess it based upon what he would have said, I want to know what he would have said, and he's got the proof to do that. Otherwise, we could make a number, Jay, and tell him anything.
I made up the number.
I know you did.
On the number he gave me. I didn't make up the number.
Well, you did it. You applied it over the entire year, and it was I don't know where the $4,500 came from. But explain.
It's $4,500 a load is what I have a letter right in front of me that says that.
Would you mind reading that letter?
I'm sorry.
Would you mind reading that letter?
Let me get it for you.
And you came up with 31,000 somehow, and
Mhm.
I want to see if it balances.
Is it
I
fine?
should have brought it. I have everything.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get it. The contents of that letter said $700 to $1,000 per month for a certain period and
right.
$4,500 a month for a certain
That's
period.
right, it wasn't per load.
And while you're doing that, Jay, I'll defend my motion if I may, unless you have it.
I'm looking for it. I don't know where I put it.
So I look at 5.5A under the Solid Waste Act. And number 5 says the full and prompt cooperation by the violator for the discovery of the violation, including when appropriate, entering into and implementing a good faith and legally enforceable agreement to undertake compliance and remedial efforts. I'm certainly cognizant of the fact that my motion proposes a substantially less civil penalty than we originally discussed and subsequently agreed on. But obviously, I think it was too much. I asked this question from the very beginning, what was the purpose of a civil penalty? It was answered, and that answer was to take efforts to assure that it wouldn't happen again. I believe that's the true purpose of a civil penalty in this case. It's not to recoup or regain or get whole or anything else. To me, it's leveling a penalty to discourage behavior in the future. So I think $10,000 is reasonable. I think it's manageable from my perspective. I have no idea of the business's financial. I'm not particularly concerned about that other than whether or not we as a county commissioners put that business at risk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add to that the fact that if he had not cleaned it up, the Solid Waste Act that he led is there for us to impose as the penalty to do that. But he already spent money that we would have had to go to court for to actually get that to be accomplished. So in my view, it's not $10,000. It's $45,000 that he's facing. But I want to still know what the actual costs were.
It is, go ahead. And it is from the increased business through the COVID-19 deal. And it's starting in March or April. It was.
So Mr. Miller, it's $31,000, the amount of money that you did not pay in disposal fees because you put it in an improper place. Is that the right number?
It is.
Okay. All right.
And you can come out and look at our records. We know we have to keep records with the USDA.
I'll take his word for it. On that note.
Okay. Further discussion, gentlemen? We'll get to, I know you had a question, Jackie. I'll get to you in a minute, but I want to make sure that the commissioners had an opportunity to debate this.
I'm good.
Okay. Jackie, you had a comment?
In your motion, you called the Planning and Zoning Office Commission. Could you change?
I did, I'm sorry. Planning and Zoning Office.
Please.
Yes. Certainly with my intent. If I misspoke, I apologize. Kelly, we good there? Any further discussion, gentlemen, before we go to a public comment?
I do have one question.
Go ahead, sir.
Previously, the length of probation was 2 years.
Yes.
You're saying, or your motion now is 3 years
Yes.
of probation and 3 years to pay the.
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you for that clarification. That was the intent of the motion.
Okay.
I just had a quick one on that. How come, why wasn't it 2, Tom? What were you thinking?
Well, 2 things, actually. Obviously, to lessen the impact on his cash flow on a monthly basis, and secondly, to extend the period of time that he is held accountable to the commissioners in a more formal. He's always held accountable as long as he has special use permit, but it would extend the time. I thought maybe also of including something in my motion about requiring Mr. Miller as the owner of Westcliff Meats and the holder of the special use permit to maybe enroll in some kind of a business management, business ethics class. I did not include that in the motion. I'm not sure it would be totally appropriate, but certainly would be a suggestion down the road.
I have a question for the planning and zoning czars. It being on probation, does that impact an application by that SUP holder to modify the SUP? For example, if you picked up a sideline of making dog food out there and wanted to sell that, is that not
Yes,
possible?
that is another discussion that would be inappropriate at this time, but it would be.
But I mean, that's part of the probation.
Yeah, no,
I mean, for 3 years, is he constrained is really my question.
No, 3 years he can, the probation is to say, bring your receipts into me, you pay your penalty, and then if I catch you doing anything more that is deemed inappropriate with your waste, then you're out.
Only pertaining to waste. If he happened to violate his SUP in another manner, then that is
Then
a
we're
totally
going to
separate.
another-
Separate issue, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, public comment. Mr. Miller, you are more than welcome to enjoy. join public comment if you care to. You certainly do not have to. If you want to wait and visit with council,
Okay,
I just want to make sure you understand you're more than welcome to engage in public comment if you'd like.
sure. So just a few questions for Smith. Maybe. Is there any way we could sit down and modify, because the first agreement that you gave me, there's a few comments on there that I question. And one of them is that I'm aware that a lot of blood washed down into the Navajo Nation.
Okay,
And I am not aware of that,
okay.
you know.
That language would not be in the new agreement
Okay,
as the motion stands right now.
okay. So also on the receipts that I bring to the county, it says that it's disposed at a proper landfill, and we might do rendering someday, or might find a rendering plan.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point there. That could change in the future, and so we probably need Clint to add language to that agreement that to a certified landfill or another
Approved.
state-approved method of disposal. Does that make sense to everybody?
Why don't you just put state-approved disposal and let it go?
Okay.
Because all the landfills are state-approved to hold the waste.
Yeah, I thought too, down the line, who's to say that Westcliff Meats doesn't invest in an incinerator and incinerate those byproducts on
Right.
site, which
Make
would
fertilizer
be
out of
state
it.
approved.
Yeah.
So your point's very well taken there, Hank. Yeah. Council, you good on that?
I am. So the language in the agreement is now drafted that says that Mr. Miller would be responsible for any cleanup on the Navajo Nation. Are we taking that out then or not? Because I thought that originally that to
Why?
the,
Let me ask that a question to help answer. Why is he the only one accountable? Why?
it was his solid waste
Yeah,
dumping
but
that
it was,
ended up on the Navajo Nation.
That doesn't
I
make
mean, they're
sense.
washed down through Foster Gulch onto the Navajo Nation, and could be a request for cleanup from the Navajo Nation
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, I would
Right?
think that it would be appropriate to add that, or to add that language to the new agreement.
Oh, I think it was in
In the original agreement, right,
Right.
if allowed. Obviously,
If,
can't force him to do that if the Navajo Nation doesn't allow him to go on their property.
No, I understand it, and I just left it, in the letter I sent to the Navajo Nation, I asked them if there's anything else they wanted. If they asked for cleanup, it would be, I mean, that's a lot of animal parts and bones that have been scattered around, and if they want that cleaned up, that's what I was looking at based on my visual inspection of the property.
So let's go back through it and make sure we're clear and concise. So clean up on the Navajo land if allowed
Correct.
and requested a 3-year probation period, which includes monthly reporting to the Planning and Zoning Department. We're good there? Yes, ma'am?
What Mr. Clint did write the Navajos a letter, and I think he indicated that he wanted a response within 30 days. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I said to let us know because we were planning on closing.
Right.
Jackie was planning on closing her file in 30 days.
So I believe that if the Navajos do not respond within 30 days of what they would like Hank or anyone to do on their property, then it would have to be up to Hank and them to get together. I think that the county would be out of it.
I do too.
And to address the specific request that Mr. Miller had a concern, it was the language in there that he was aware that it had washed down onto the Navajo Nation. So I can certainly eliminate that. If you want to include that. I mean, he was not aware of it, but he's been made aware of it subsequent to.
I don't
what's happening.
see it necessary, but gentlemen, thoughts on that?
I agree. Not necessary.
Okay, so just to be sure I understand then, if he's gonna be responsible for any cleanup as a condition, it would have to be Navajo Nation would have to let us know within 30 days, otherwise he's not obligated to do any cleanup there.
Through us, they can make their own agreement.
And then I appreciated and thought it was a good idea about if for some reason his business is suspended because of COVID, we would take that into account as indicated by Commissioner Prince earlier.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
can I propose a friendly amendment to your motion?
Certainly.
Instead of 10,000, I feel we'd be really doing a disservice if we didn't at least assess a civil penalty over how much monetary gain Westcliff Meats had. So I would like to see the assessment at 31,000 and maybe give them 5 years, or I'll do longer than that if you want, because the last thing I want to do is put anybody out of business. I mean, that's 26 families. There's no way in heck I want to do that. I promise, but I can't brush this under the rug and I can't let them profit by breaking the law. And that's what it appears to me. And this is just my simplistic way of looking at it. So a friendly amendment I'm suggesting is $31,000 penalty over, I wrote down 60 months, which is $516. I just put that out as a friendly amendment.
I think given the circumstances, sir, Chair would ask you to make that a formal amendment for a motion to amend.
I move that we amend the motion on the table, leave all the provisions that we discussed in place exactly the way they were stated with the changes. However, change the total amount of the penalty to $31,000 and have that paid over,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed, okay, to be paid over no greater than 72 months, which works out to $430.56 a month. That's my motion.
Is there a second? I will second it for the purposes of discussion and the vote. 72, you said?
Yes, sir. I could go 72 to make it less of a burden on a monthly basis. That was my purpose.
So moved and seconded to amend the main motion by striking the words 10,000 over 3 years and inserting 31,000 over 72 months. Discussion.
I still disagree, Jay, and the reason is because he's already paid $45,000. And then on top of that, another 10 is a total of $55,000 for the mistake he made.
No, I don't think that's accurate.
What was the cleanup cost? I thought that's-
35.
35 was what he reported.
So it's,
planning and zoning.
okay, so it's $45,000, which is still more than the $31,000 he saved. And he wasted a lot of his time that he could have been building his business when he was cleaning up, meaning he screwed up and he paid for that in time that he had to spend it. That's my view.
And I respect your view.
So I'm just trying to look at it logically.
Yeah, I respect your view. I'd like to give how I feel about it. The penalty of violating the law was having to clean it up at whatever cost that was. The assessment we're giving is not a penalty. It's what he would have paid had he done his business properly. Okay? The penalty was the cost of getting caught, breaking the law, and having to amend it. The penalty is how much you saved. And yes, I repeated myself.
I did. Yeah, I certainly respect and understand where you're coming from, Jay. I guess a very simple way to look at it is, for me, whatever that amount ends up being, would I feel comfortable that Westcliff Meats got the message that they made a mistake and they should not do it again? I don't care about balancing the books necessarily, but I can't argue with your logic.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
if your concern is that they don't do it again, and I agree with you, I think the likelihood of not only Westcliff Meats, but anybody in that business violating after this came to light is about as close to zero as it can. I mean, the gentleman is not stupid, okay? Saying, please don't do it again, and go, oh, I think I'll do it next week. I mean, that would be calling you dumb, and you're not dumb. So, I mean, tongue in cheek. So if the question is, is a fine for doing something wrong. If the purpose is to make them not do it again, let's not assess that penalty. And let's just say, tell you what, you do it again, you lose your SUP, and we'll just drop it there. So if the purpose is to not have them do it again, which there's no doubt in my mind, here to eternity, this gentleman will never, ever do that again. I know that for a fact, okay? My heart knows that for a fact. I don't know that for a fact. But it's not a penalty. I mean, we could just say, if you do it again, we'll take your SUP. And then that would solve your issue.
It would, absolutely.
Anyway, the penalty by statute is $10,000 a day for every day that solid waste was laying the silo. Now, wait a minute, that's the maximum. Every day. And what happened was, the minute he found out, he cleaned it up. So the penalty, he actually paid for $3,000 a day charge. I don't know how long it took you to clean it up, but he paid a penalty when he did it, period. That's logically. So
You're right.
So now to keep him from doing it again, the SUP is my view. That's how he makes a living. He can't risk losing his living. And so that penalty is what is there to remind him of that. And then we put him on probation, which is he's gonna have to be careful with everybody that helps out there to make sure that they're not screwing up. That's a big, another burden. So that's why that's where I am.
Further discussion on the amendment?
Amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Public comment on the amendment of the motion?
This is Matt Miles. I have a brief comment.
Go ahead, sir.
This SUP, and I've said this before, I'm not really familiar with this arena, this county government arena. That's not what I've done. But this SUP is and I know John Naylor well. He was a county attorney here for a very long time. And John is a good friend of mine. His son Rich is a good friend of mine. These special use permits are an unusual creature, I guess, if you will, from the standpoint, they're not like a zoning change that runs with the land. They're more in the nature of a license that is personal for the person holding it, just kind of from my observation, thinking about the difference between a license and an easement. And the interesting thing about the special use permit is that holder of that permit is on permanent continuous probation. Because if they violate that permit, they can be shut down by a county commission meeting, and that's the end of it. And I've been involved with the land use committee on these Airbnbs or whatever they're called. And I've heard the people screaming and yelling, this is Custer County, we can do what we want, which is ridiculous in my opinion.
Mr. Miles, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Please understand. We're listening to public comment on whether or not to change the amount in the settlement agreement.
And I agree with you, Commissioner Flower, and a lot of what you said, and here's why what I think to say is relevant. I've heard a lot of, we want to fine him so he doesn't do it again. Well, I just heard Commissioner Candace say, well, we've got him on essentially what I said, permanent probation. So I just make that observation. He's on permanent probation now. And, I said I wanted him here to begin with. I want him here now, and I want the shop operated properly. And Ms. Hobby is here to more or less look at that and see that that's done. And if it's not operating properly, well, then that's the end of it. It shuts down and it moves somewhere else. So it's just an observation I have. I don't have any comment on the fine or whatever it is, penalty, punishment, deterrence. I don't know what it is. I'm not addressing that.
Okay.
I'm just big picture in the deal.
And we are trying to address that, and that's what public comments should be directed towards. Any further public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on the amendment, which states strike $10,000 over a 3-year period and insert the language of $31,000 over a 72-month period. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Commissioner Flower, nay. Commissioner Kanda,
Nay.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries 2 in favor.
Fails.
I'm sorry, the amendment fails. 1 in favor, 2 opposed. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Further discussion on the main motion, which is to assess a civil penalty of $10,000 over a 3-year period, and the other inclusions of the modification of the SUP. Is there any question about those inclusions? Clean up the Navajo land if allowed and requested, 3-year probation period, which would include providing monthly receipts showing that the offal has been disposed of in a certified landfill or other state approved means, whatever that is. And that the COVID suspension of your business would be taken into account. And that $10,000 over a 3-year period. Further discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Commissioner Flower votes aye. Commissioner Kanda.
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Nay.
Motion carries. Let the record show 2 in favor, 1 against. I would request that council draft a new settlement agreement, and we will review that prior to him providing that to Mr. Miller.
And can I just make a point,
Yes.
just so we're all clear?
Yep.
If Mr. Miller chooses not to agree to this, then the SUP is going to be revoked. Is that correct?
I don't believe that's correct. I don't think we've made that determination.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, great point, great point. I would, and you bring up a great question. Would it be fair to Westcliff Meats, i.e. Mr. Miller, for him not to know the repercussion if he does not?
That's why I'm
agree?
bringing it up.
Exactly.
So, 'cause he's
Very,
here, I'd
very
like him to
fair,
know.
very fair.
Didn't Clint point out something in the discussion that said that could happen or does happen? What did you say?
I don't recall what I said, but that would be the whole basis of this. These are the things he has to do to keep the business open. If he doesn't want to sign the agreement,
Right.
then you can go forward and but that would be a separate agenda item to take
Right.
formal action on the SUP then beyond what you're
Right,
doing here.
and to my knowledge, then that formal action goes back to the zoning resolution that says modify, suspend, or revoke.
Correct.
I don't think revocation is an automatic thing. I think we'd have to consider
Right, you have to
those
consider.
3 things.
I think.
Ms. Hobby, your thoughts on that?
Payments start January.
Thank you.
How about if Mr. Miller wants to make 2 payments and skip a payment? Do you guys care?
No.
As long as he,
No, the motion was to not exceed 36 months. So how that happens,
He can
He's
take
still on
a lump sum
probation.
If he wants.
He just gets the
Okay.
payment done early.
go ahead, sir.
I was going to agree to break one with it.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, anything before we conclude our business here?
I do have a few questions. I don't know if this is the right time or not.
Go ahead.
Regarding the disposal from the waste there, at Westcliff Meats. So when we first started, we have a signed document from Custer County Landfill stating they will take all of our waste product.
Right.
They accepted 1 load of waste and said we can't do it anymore. And I specifically asked Mr. Prince this spring what we can do, to make that happen. And he specifically told me they'll take just the bones. They can't take the profile and the intestines and so forth. But they're not accepting the bones either. What can we do to keep from wearing down the roads and, taking it all down to Pueblo? Is there do you have any thoughts on what we could do in the future?
If I can respond, you're absolutely correct. You asked me about, can I bring my byproducts to landfill? And I told you at the time, I had no idea. So I got with Brian, the landfill operator, and he said it takes a different kind of license that we have. That's why I can't take it. And I said, well, what would it take? Because you had mentioned to me, you might be willing to help fund getting that license if that was the issue. And it turned out that we didn't have, and I'm trying to remember, we didn't have the right type of soil. There was something that precluded our landfill from taking offal. So, and I relay that back to you. Now, I think specifically we ought to look to see if bones, not biodegradable byproducts, meat byproducts, fat, those kind of things, is that a possibility to come to our landfill? And I certainly don't know that, but I think it'd be fair to ask Brian if he could look into it and see if bones themselves could come. I mean, I would help them, man. I'm not looking to hurt them.
Bones do not deteriorate really fast. So taking bones in a landfill takes up a lot of space. But I think that there's some other options that maybe Hank can explore. And that would be something that would probably be done in a planning type situation. And we'll do that,
Right.
not in this board.
Yeah, I think too, bone meal is certainly a commodity. Obviously, it has to be treated, dried and ground and all that. But I think it is a legitimate conversation to have with the planning or the landfill director. May be a possibility. I don't know that.
Some time ago, there was a plant in Florence that did bones to make bone china.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's an option. That's another business. I mean, you can even put something like that in the plant. I don't know, it's an option to explore.
Sure.
Beats putting them in the landfill. I don't want to see it in the landfill in person. It's not, we don't have much room as it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's other things, whether they're cost effective or not, who knows? Incineration is certainly an option.
Yeah, crematory.
Yeah.
Tough business. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah, that's all the questions I had.
All right, thank you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, Your Highness.
If there's no objections, take about a
Won't see me in June.
4-minute break at the most.
Break time.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of the county public information officer position.
Let me take that on because I volunteered in our last meeting. We decided we do need it and we do need a countywide one. And as a result, worked with Vernon and Butch, Adrian Washington as well. And Donna took the county PIO description we had. The only thing that, and both Vernon looked at it from the point of view of the emergency services piece, not just OEM, but the sheriff's department, the coroner, et cetera. And so the result was the new, some additional things I got to streamline yet, but I sent you the gist of it. And included some training that's necessary for a professional PIO to take responsibility because that person speaks for the county and is accountable. We're accountable for what he says. So we want to make sure they're trained up right.
You did also mean the director of public health.
I meant public health
You
as
didn't
well.
add that in, you didn't list that on your list. Okay.
But it needs to be in there. So I'm going to I'll still clean that up. And of course, can't work with Donna right now, but we'll get it as soon as we can. In addition, speaking of public health, we are putting the word out for a secretary for that position. As you know, that was a voluntary position. So we're going to advertise that as well for the public health secretary position.
Before, just for my own curiosity, I'm trying to think of the lady's name. I thought she was their secretary. No?
We
I
had
think
the
what Commissioner Kent is talking about is to advertise for a secretary for the Board of Health.
Board of Health,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
public health
I'm sorry.
agencies.
I apologize. I thought you were talking about the Board
For
of
the Board of Health,
Agency was getting a secretary.
no,
Okay, I'm cool.
we're good. And so that's just a status, basically, and we've agreed, unless we do need we need to formalize a public health PIO, or not public health, a PIO for the county now? Is it a broader spectrum, or are we good with proceeding like we are?
Well, yeah, I think that's really the crux of the whole issue. This is all minutia.
Right,
Right.
this is,
And we need to decide, number one, do we need one?
Yep.
Number two, how in the hell are we gonna pay for
right, and
it? And how to be part-time, full-time, all that stuff. So-
right, and that was the issue, and I did work that as well. I think we should. If we do need to vote on it, and from what I got out of it, the part-time position that Vernon had with the IT PIO piece that he had with Alex, and then the stuff that public health has, as well as Adrian Washington, there is some money available. And I got it, and I had intended to see Donna earlier about the actual pieces and the actual salary that they were going to describe. So I need to come back. I think we need to come back and finalize that with a formal vote. But I think maybe it's appropriate to say, from our point of view, we want to pursue it today.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I do have some thoughts and maybe concerns. I don't know.
Go ahead.
You know, I thought, my last thought was, and I'm certainly open to discussion, was that this was a half-time position. And then when I spent time reading this, I kept thinking to myself, I just don't see 20 hours just on this. Now, I remember Alex was also,
IT.
yeah, he was in IT. He was back up to Vern, and Alex was great at it. So, I mean, it really made great
And
sense.
that's,
to him.
I think that's what he put in there as well.
I don't remember reading it in here because I read it unless it's the one
I
you
know.
just added.
Vernon, we discussed that. What was the?
Well, I broke them out into two different jobs because the discussion has always been PIO and IT assistant. So I sent the IT position and the PIO position as two different jobs
Two half-time.
in description wise. So I have,
But wait a
yes,
minute, it would be one job with two job descriptions?
well,
Why would you put
Two
it on
half-time
one job?
positions.
well, okay. I was under the impression we were looking at IT assistant and a PIO, and if they cross-pollinated, great, but if not, that was the,
Right.
we
right.
needed to look at the two separate jobs.
Okay,
Yeah, we authorize you to pursue
Okay.
finding an IT assistant, has nothing to do with PIO.
Right.
Understood.
If in your search, again, like we did with Alex, you came up and said, man, would really think you guys should consider this individual as a PIO officer, then that takes on a whole nother realm.
And I believe that I've interviewed a gentleman that has actually been doing the PIO for Adrian's, for the OEM
Right.
As a volunteer. And I've interviewed him for IT. I'm ready to pursue that aspect of it. And he does fit the bill for the other side as well. So,
so he could do both.
He could do
sides.
exactly.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're looking at two halftime.
And then from my perspective,
One half time.
Uh,
Sorry.
I think one of the questions we have not considered is what auspices does this person operate under? I believe this is a Board of County Commissioners employee, not public health, not OEM, not any other single entity in the county system. And therefore, I would expect us to do the interviewing and the hiring of a PIO that answers to the VOCC. Certainly value Vern's experience and knowledge in that area, as he has kind of unofficially served as our PIO. I don't mean to discount his involvement in that, but I just don't think it's appropriate for us to take on this mentality that this is for public health and OEM. In my opinion, it is not. This is a county position.
That's what I stated.
You can come in, sir.
It is a county position.
It's UPS would make the delivery.
So that was kind of my perspective. I do believe if we're going to move forward with this, and certainly we can continue to do our research. I'm not prepared to make a decision today necessarily, but my initial thought was that the PIO should be no more than half-time, 20 hours a week. Ms.
Can I
Kelly?
throw something out?
Sure.
So we had talked about Kara's position a little bit.
Right.
What if you threw that position into that position and you threw your public health
PIO.
secretary into that position?
Mhm.
Just a suggestion.
It's a great
I
point.
love that idea.
Kara asked me about that as well here last week sometime. Not about the PIO thing, but about the status of the admin assistant. I think my opinion is that we're going to have a difficult time hiring 20 hours or less half-time positions. It's proven out so far for the maintenance position. I think that has some great validity, Kelly. I think maybe that conversation needs to be had. If we could find the right person and use them half-time PIO, half-time BOCC admin assistant, and then let Vernon find an IT assistant. I don't see that IT and PIO are directly correlated to each other. I see there's some commonalities there, but I don't think one automatically fits the other necessarily. I mean, the person might, but I don't presume that. I don't presume that admin assistant and PIO would go hand in hand necessarily either, but it could be a condition of employment.
Actually made a good point. I think the IT and the PIO are more similar in that IT is getting on the web, doing communications, blah, 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 a lot of work. I worry about an admin assistant that has to split time on a PIO job that could get involved pretty heavy because of a fire and they're talking with, and they're going to meetings and a lot of things happen.
Well, Bill, I absolutely agree with you. The one thing that'll change though with what our assistant is doing now, instead of doing, I was pointing that way.
Yeah.
Instead of
Doing the,
being a helper to
Donna.
Donna, because Donna's getting an assistant.
Right.
It would make perfectly good sense. That was a great suggestion.
No, I
I've
like
already authorized Vern. And I guess the question would be, the person you have in mind, do you think that person would be interested in a half-time position as a IT assistant?
Yeah, yes, he's interested in the halftime position as the IT and also has a skill set for the other side too.
I
if
love
you
this.
are
That was a
interested.
great idea, Ms. Kelly.
I think it's a good idea.
I think you're,
And I did talk about that with Donna, but because she was gone, I didn't want to pursue it until we could
This is
discuss
not
it.
the time.
yeah, I think really our next step, in addition to the research, is to start developing a job vacancy announcement. And get that in the works. We also have to do that for our admin assistant. I don't believe that's been done yet either. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball there.
Now, this was to go into that next step, Tom, was to take this description and build an announcement and go forward. But I think what we're talking about today, we brought it up ad hoc last time. So we're ratifying it basically today that says we want the position to be a full-time position that encompasses the job description, like we said, is it part-time here and a part, I like that idea.
I think
Well,
we meld the 2 job descriptions into one job description with both duties
both duties as
the BOCC admin assistant and the PIO.
PIO. Or, like Vernon says, you could do an IT versus PIO too. And on
yeah, that's really where we're at. We got 3, what I consider 3 halftime positions that we need to fill.
right.
And maybe we go about it at this approach. Here are our 3 halftime positions that we are putting a vacancy announcement out there, and then let the applicant determine, I believe I'm qualified for 2 of those 3 or whatever. I don't
Look
know.
at it that way.
Maybe we don't make the decision. It's got to be A and B or B and C or.
Your point's well taken, except half-time positions have no benefits. And if we
Right.
put
Right.
someone
You get
into
different-
full-time, then they have the benefits.
Yeah.
So a person who may qualify for full-time may not apply thinking, well, look, I need health insurance. I don't want this job. So,
We might put a statement in there that
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
the commissioners would consider combining any 2 of those halftime positions into a full-time position.
Yeah, you could do that, or you got a halftime maintenance. Can they be an admin too? I mean, you got 4 really.
Consider that, we
You know,
have
you're
4.
real 4 halftime.
Yeah, we really do.
It could be.
Although
Maintenance guy could be IT.
we've already decided to put the
That's
maintenance
2
end of
full-time
it out
positions.
on contracts. I'm not aware that we've had any response to that, but
To that.
I wanted to bring up too, we've got a dysfunction going on here, and it's going to catch up to us. It already is. And that is us sitting in here deciding things and then not communicating to the appropriate people what we decided.
Yeah.
Specifically, we decided to go on a contract with snow removal. We decided to go on a halftime with Vernon, although he knows about it, so it's not quite as egregious there. But I think we're remiss in leaving the human resource cog off of this wheel. I don't think Donna probably knows what we want unless one of us has gone in there and specifically told her. I have not. As soon as the meeting's over, I am prone to going, okay, we got that taken care of. Well, we don't get it taken care of. We just make a decision
Right.
and
Yeah, we have to
we don't
follow
have a
through.
lot of
That's
follow
true.
through there. So
And I sure didn't follow through with the contract for snow removal.
I talked to Donna about that a little, but as far as getting something in the newspaper, providing her the wording for that, and how long did we want it in there? When's the start date of the period? When's the closing date? I just think we've fallen short in that regard. So I really encourage us to try to follow up and.
And it might be easier too, now that Donna has an assistant, so that now she can start playing the HR role more heavily.
Well, she doesn't have an assistant.
Well, she will theoretically.
So anyway, I just bring that up as a prod to all three of us, me included, certainly, to say we got to do a little better job on our follow
I agree.
on some of that. Because the same thing with Kara's job, I don't think officially we have done anything about posting a job vacancy announcement for that position either, so. Which we're kind of all over the map here when we're talking about PIO, so maybe we ought to hold off until later, but
Yeah, let's.
I think we have to decide what we want to do about the admin assistant position. If we wait until the 7th or the 8th of December, that's fine. We will be without an assistant. So I think
Needs to be posted.
I personally think we probably ought to move that to a half-time position. But I also look to Kelly. Don't take this wrong. You're committed to stay with agendas and minutes for the BOCC. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that to me would be a consideration, whether it's part-time or full-time.
I don't think the BOCC admin should be a part-time position because of the number of calls and people who depend on getting information to the BOCC, documents turned in. I would much rather do like Kelly suggested, which I think is an excellent suggestion, add a dimension to that position, that full-time position, to make it a full-time position.
I do too, because we need an admin that does all those things, including we go to a meeting, booking hotels, being an admin as well, other things other than just answering the phone and taking minutes at a meeting.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking, if Donna has a new person who's going to handle the financial area of this,
Which is,
that would free up this position to do something else.
Kara's doing that halftime now.
I understand, but I would like, I just feel, I would hate for the phone to ring and no one answer it. Because the three of us are out and it's half a day that the person's
I
not
agree.
there. So, to me, I would rather add job duties to it and leave it a full-time position. That's my opinion.
So let's look into that then. So how do we pay for that? So now we're talking,
Well, it's
you want to.
It's a budgeted FTE right now,
Right.
so it's not extra money.
Right.
There is appeal to me to include in the job responsibilities of the admin assistant to serve as the Board of Health Secretary.
Yeah, that's easy.
I think that could
Piece
be
of cake.
a no-brainer, basically, because we have our meetings here.
It's only once a month
Person can
on a
sit
normal
right
year.
there and do them, post them to the
no-brainer.
agenda, send them out. I mean, it would make sense. Now, serving your
You're doing that
PIO,
now.
that might be a different ballgame.
In my mind, reading the description, writing speeches, talking, I mean, how often does this really happen? I was thinking to myself, this doesn't seem like a half-time position. Seems like a contract employee says, hey, we need a speech for this, or the press is asking a question,
Well-
would you respond to them? But that's not an everyday affair.
Well, it isn't, but I'll tell you what is happening. The bigger we get, the more stuff we're doing, the more things we're into, to be professional about it. And I need to go down and see the ops center that's down in Susie Coleman. Susie. Has down at 12 to understand who we interact with and what kind of communications they're changing than what it used to be.
Well, I
So-
agree, and, we have to adapt to what the changing environment is.
That's right. Be ready
But
for
we need
it
to try and fill what the needs are for today
for today.
with an eye on the future.
Go ahead, sir.
So the job description that was created is really all encompassing. But as you said, these aren't things that are done every single day.
Right.
What has to be done every day is things like communication, sit down with the Board of Health, or excuse me, the Director of Public Health to craft the COVID release for the day.
Right.
The notifications for OEM the changes on the signs, that type of thing is an almost everyday occurrence.
Right.
So it's, respectfully, it's the speech writing. Yeah, I could see that being a contract deal, but there is something to do as a PIO every single day.
I'm with you, Vern. I think a PIO needs to be a position here.
Right.
But just looking at the job description itself, I'm having trouble seeing this as even a halftime position, but if we have that with the admin assistant and also that's the secretary for the Board of Health, I think now we have a full-time position.
Yeah, and I look at it differently, Jay. I think if we pursue, I'll just throw it out for discussion, PIO/G, IT, and then that is now possibly a
I think that's
full-time
more
position.
synergistic too.
And then a BOCC admin assistant with some additional duties.
And I'm fine.
I think that's the way to go. I think that's. the way
I
to go.
don't think it would be realistic to ask somebody to be in here as an admin assistant and be able to do that PIO job. PIO job is, there's some insurance built into that. We're not going to need them every day, but by golly, when we need them, they
You
better
gotta
be
have
fully qualified, trained, and
Right.
because they're going to represent us.
That's
I
right.
appreciated Bill's addition to that description with the training.
Right.
I said, right on to
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, those classes
Right,
are
so-
absolutely standard to be.
Vernon,
trained.
you're good with an IT help too. I mean, right? I mean, you're.
Yes, sir. With the help, I could facilitate part of that process. I
I-
already do with the website,
Right.
so.
And so I think that's more synergistic if we can find the right guy or guys to do that. Advertise that as one position with two. maybe.
Halftime IT works for you right now?
Yes, sir.
And you have someone in mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think we've already authorized it, have we not?
Yes, sir.
Well, for IT,
That's what I'm talking about.
yes.
Just his position.
So we could add a halftime. We'll make this halftime the other piece, which we have covered already, right?
So halftime PIO, halftime IT.
Yeah.
And if we can find somebody to do both of those, we're willing to consider that a full-time position if they benefit.
I think
That makes sense, Kel, from your perspective?
Yeah.
And then we deal with the admin assistant.
Yeah.
Differently. Yeah, my gut feeling is halftime, but I respect what you say, Jay, about full-time position, especially if we're adding some other jobs, one of which is Secretary for Board of Health. The other thing I think we could do too is through our social, I don't really call it social media platforms, but through our informational platforms, we could put the word out there moving forward. The commissioner's office is going to be staffed from 8 to 12. And people get accustomed to, if you need an answer, you have to call in the morning or the afternoon, whichever works out. And I think I've said this before, we're one of the few counties who lists the individual commissioners' telephone numbers publicly.
And boy, do they.
All of our surrounding counties have a central number at their office. And
Right.
if you call that and don't get anybody, you're out of luck. You don't have any way to get
Matter
hold
of
of those
fact, it
commissioners.
sucks.
So-
I actually try to get a hold of the
Isn't
commissioner.
it wonderful?
You never-
In Custer County, you
Yeah.
can get a hold of someone if you need them.
So
I don't have any.
That's the way it should be.
Bill, your thoughts on admin assistant, full or part-time?
I like the sharing. I think it's a full-time job.
Okay. And then we come up with other duties as
Right,
assigned.
right.
Anything other than the Secretary of the Board of Health, Kelly, that you can think of?
No, not at this
Yeah, I'm struggling myself.
Speaking on behalf of Donna, I think she's mentioned the grant writing and
Oh, yeah, that's,
the grant writing for the whole county and making certain that the paperwork and process is documented and
and follows through. Don and I were talking about that and she was suggesting that like Brenda used to do a lot.
Brenda was
We
great.
never had that since then.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Kara has been dealing with those grants. Believe me, I'm in here and watch it. She's been on that portal many times, but there's not a clear communication channel
Right.
about grants. I mean, these DOLA grants are all over the map.
Right.
EDC
Yep.
being one of them, it's hard for her to deal with those DOLA grants that deal with economic development when it's economic development doing them. So, but yeah, I agree. I think the grant writing,
Yeah.
administration of county grants, maybe not necessarily writing them, but to do that follow-up as well. So could write them, but
But get it started. and follow
I
it.
think
Chase it, get
departments
it to
should
the right
write their
guy.
own grants myself. But
They're the ones who know what's going on.
exactly. Now, for administration of those grants, whole nother ballgame in my book, but. So could we generally agree that we're gonna move forward with either a combined IT, PIO, or 2 half-time positions, whichever we could fill, and a full-time admin assistant?
I'm fine with it. What I'd like to see if we were in agreement with is to allow Vern to move forward with the individual that he would like to, I'm assuming he'd like to hire that person, who he'd like to hire to be his assistant and the PIO.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, I don't feel the same. I think we need to be involved in the PIO thing.
Well, we need to see it. Why
I think
wouldn't
we
we
need to
see
be
that? We need
involved
to
in it.
see it, the resume and all that and approve it.
But if we interview
But
that,
somebody has to go
I
contact him.
understand. If
I
we
thought that's what
interview
you
that
meant.
person, then we have to open it up to the county for anybody else who may want it,
Absolutely.
which is probably what we ought to do.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
I certainly voted for and have no problem with Vern having the authority to hire an IT person. It gets a little quirky if we're trying to hire 2 half-time positions into one person. I understand that, but we may just have to try to time that
That's
out.
okay.
I just believe the PIO position is different than the IT position as far as the chain of command.
That's great. How about, just a suggestion, how about we turn Vernon loose to hire his IT person? And then once that person's on board, we bring him in here and talk to that person about the PIO position. And he'll have a dual reporting depending on what they take on. And not advertise at this point, but see if this is a fit at the time. And then we could decide where to go from there. And that way he's hiring an IT person. And we might talk to that, we could talk to anybody in the county who might be interested in PIO if they have the time. So I don't want to stall this thing for another 2 months, getting it out and interviews on. He's gonna got a person who is willing to do the job that he's authorized to hire. My feeling is let's let him go hire the person. And then when that person's on board, come in and say, hey, we'd like to add this job to your description. You report to the commissioners. What do you think? And move from there.
I think that's okay. I don't have a problem either with taking on the guy working for the commissioners, period, with additional duty to serve the IT office. And then we would be getting input on his performance from the IT, but it would still be our position. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I just don't track, Jay.
Okay. I don't want any.
I would like us to see us go at either or. We're going to advertise 2 half-time positions and may consider combining those into 1 full-time position. The problem in my book, if we go with kind of what you were thinking is, well, it may limit, if somebody knew interviewing with Vern that this may turn into a full-time job, that might have a different implication for all of us than him hiring a half-time position and then we talk to him about moving that to full-time. Somebody may be interested in full-time from the very beginning.
But go just the opposite also. Someone may say, hey, you'd be perfect to do these 2 jobs. And they go, time out. I only want a half-time job. So, I mean, that could go both
It
ways.
could,
So what are we arguing about? I think it's okay to go advertise a full-time position that has both descriptions and interview everybody. What's wrong with
that's fine.
it? Right? I mean,
That's different than letting Vern go do what we
right,
authorized him to do.
except Vernon could go off and do that because he's familiar with the PIO position too. So he can go and help energize the process for us. I mean, he's already doing that. Let's just go and make it happen and make it 1 full-time position that has both jobs there, and it's gonna be a commissioner's report.
Well, and if we say that, then we have no flexibility to have two halftime positions. We may not like the guy he's talking about.
No, but there are other people that will apply.
Yeah, but they may not.
Well, if you.
I just think we need to put it out there. It's either a full-time position combined or it's two
What I'm
halftime
trying to
positions.
say, it's a full-time position combined.
Or two halftime positions. That's my point.
Why does it have to be or? Because why can't we go and advertise for somebody? Because I think the IT and the PIO kind of are synergistic enough to get some other people.
No disagreement there.
Vernon, you got it.
When we first broached the subject of the two jobs, the PIO really, the IT position existed. And it was decided back at the beginning of this year that the PIO position needed to exist. We had a person that cross-pollinated completely. So that was the thought process. IT may require somebody who has no skill sets as the PIO. But fortunately, we found someone that was skilled at both of them. So that was the original discussion at the beginning of the year was to have them be separate. And then, oh my goodness, it worked. So let's put them together. So I just remember that data point. That's all.
Yeah.
Just want to put that out there.
And I don't discount that it could work. I'm not saying it is working.
Right.
Because we don't have a clue, right? I, again, reiterate, no problem with Vernon hiring an IT person. I think we need to hire a PIO or a PIO/IT
Right,
person.
we have to interview.
Okay. So with that being said, how about you authorize Vern to go ahead and hire his person that's advertised for halftime PIO, and maybe Vern's person will want to apply for
That
that.
may be rolled into a full-time position if you can serve as
If
this
that
as
person
well.
applies for it and says, you know, we may say, oh, since you're already halftime, this halftime, we're just gonna make it full-time with benefits.
Problem
So-
I see, is I don't like the idea, but the problem is PIO that thinks he's gonna be a PIO and then gets discriminated against because of an IT requirement.
That's what we'll put
How do
on separate deals. He's gonna hire his IT guy, person. I don't mean call guy. I mean guy, gender neutral.
I know,
And
exactly.
we put out a position for PIO. And if we have 10 applicants for halftime, we pick the one that we choose. If it happens to be Vernon's person, then we could say, hey, let's make it a full-time position. But we're under no obligation to do anything.
Yeah, I just like the flexibility to say we could roll them into one position or we could keep them separate depending on
On who applies and what
the
our
applicants.
circumstances are.
Exactly.
So
Works for me.
can we do that?
All right.
Make that a plan?
So, Bill, do you want to continue on the
We got it going. We'll
on the
get it.
whole
Keep-
thing, and then we will put a vacancy announcement out for both.
Right.
As halftime positions, with the possibility of those becoming a full-time position if the applicant fits. Or did I miss something? Now, when I say we advertise for both, I'm talking about Vernon doing his thing. We've already authorized him to hire an assistant. He may want to wait. I don't know.
What you're saying is if once we hire that halftime guy, he looks like a good PIO, then cancel the requisition for the other halftime piece.
Good, yeah.
And let me just throw one thing out that popped into my head just to muddy the waters, just this much more. The BOCC admin, part of that duty also needs to learn how to run the
Oh, yeah.
the
Live streaming.
Live streaming and
Zoom,
sound.
I think that's part of the job description too. We need to put.
yeah, that needs to be part of that
Training
job
with
description.
Vernon.
And we know that, and to me, that would be, someone's gonna have to teach him. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
anybody other than Vern that would walk in and say, I can do this.
Right.
So. I don't
Oh,
know
that's
if
a
he
good
wants
point.
the Yeah, so I just threw that out. So just to kind of sum this up, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we're authorizing Vern to move forward with hiring his halftime person. And we're going to advertise for two positions, half-time BOCC admin and half-time PIO? Is that what we agreed to? I'm trying to, I'm not putting words in your mouth.
I thought we agreed to full-time admin assistant
Okay,
with additional duties. And then
half-time.
either 2 half-time PIO IT, or if the applicants direct us that direction by their abilities and qualifications, then that could become 1 position.
Okay, so the only confusion I'm having, and I'm sorry I'm being very dense this morning, are we authorizing Vern to go ahead and make an offer to the person he wants, or do you want this to be advertised and see who else applies?
Well, we've already authorized Vernon to hire an IT half-time person.
That's what I thought. That's why
That's
when you
been
brought it
done.
up, you want to advertise that. I'm thinking, why?
Don't answer.
So the thought would be that if we now advertise the possibility of that being 1 full-time position, we may get a different applicant pool. But we'd have to do that in conjunction with Vernon. We can't just go off and do that because he may hire somebody.
Right. I mean, if he called someone and made an offer today for his half-time position, and they said, I'll take the job, as far as I'm concerned, that job is filled.
Right.
And then we put out a full-time BOCC admin and a half-time TIO,
Right.
and the person who has Vern's job may say, I want to do one of those two, or we'll get another 2 half-time person.
And I think it's standard practice to say preference will be given to a county employee over a non-county, right?
I believe that's already in our handbook.
Yeah.
We do.
Our employee-
So yeah, that could allow his half-time IT person to still apply for the PI.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay.
Makes sense.
So let's make that the plan.
Yeah.
Okay with me.
By consent, we're okay to move forward. My
Let's move on.
concern now is moving forward. Bill, you volunteered to deal with this.
My concern is we're gonna lose Clint.
Well, Clint's dicey at best.
He's gonna have diabetes.
I did my
before.
part, now I'm just dozing off and eating chocolate.
That's right. I tell you, I would volunteer to move forward on the vacancy announcement for the admin assistant. I'll
Absolutely.
follow that through if that's all right. So I'll do that one. Work with Kara about that as well. Kara, to your best of your knowledge, do you know if Donna's done anything about that? I did not see anything in the Tribune.
I don't believe she has.
Okay. Okay.
She did on last Wednesday when I was talking to her, because she
Yeah, I
was
don't
still
believe-
considering adding things to them.
So if you'll help me on that, we'll get that rolling this week. Okay, anything else on that, gentlemen, before we move on? Next item of business, consideration of the IGA with free comp. Should have a copy of that in your pocket, or in your packet, I'm sorry. I thought it was strange when I looked at that, that there is no signature pages on that document.
If you look at Shannon's email,
Mhm.
I thought it said that this was a copy of what you did in June or July,
June.
and that you needed to come up with a signature page.
This was June.
That
Yeah.
could have been, yeah, I vaguely remember something about that. This is actually the restatement of the original IGA. Lengthy document, I read through it. Wanted to panic about a few things, but it was stuff we already agreed to. It just seemed like we're paying for a lot, but nobody's joined that whole thing.
So it was as of
Recently.
June of 18 was when this was written.
I move that we authorize
Or approved this IGA.
and approve the IGA entitled Restated Intergovernmental Agreement for Establishment of Regional Emergency Communication Authorization for Fremont County and between the City of Canyon City, City of Florence, Canyon City Area Fire Protection District, Fremont County E911 Authority, and the counties of Fremont and Custer.
Okay, I'll second that just so we can talk.
Been moved and seconded to approve the IGA as aforementioned. Discussion.
I don't know why it has to be restated. Don't we just want an IGA?
Well, I think there were some
We're gonna rewrite
minor changes in there
Right.
to include Custer as an entity and being on the voting board.
Right, and whatever other thing Shannon had, I don't know.
Say, I read over this and after I woke up an hour later, I finished reading it.
Painful.
Yeah, it was.
Did you find that email? I'll look for it if you have not.
I do have it, yes, and it does say we need to put together a signature
Okay.
page.
All right. So your motion then would be to include a signature page.
Certainly. Well, if we authorize.
Do you want all three commissioners on that signature page? And do you want an attestation from Kelly?
Well, we definitely need a attestation by Kelly, and I really don't care. I'm fine if the chair votes on it,
For the
signs it
commission.
once all three approve it on the record.
What's the date on that email?
11:25.
I'm wondering if it's just from us, or are we gonna have to leave room in there for everybody else?
Signature page and have the commission go through the approval process. Clint was able to work with Richard Mandel, the attorney. Now we got to talk to Clint. To make it acceptable from a county perspective. Did you make it acceptable?
Yeah, that, we agreed on all the language a long time ago. This is to bring Custer County in on board as an entity.
Right, voting member of the CRC.
We already.
So I
approved.
suppose we just do a signature. Why don't we do it, the three of us,
That's correct. And
attestation?
they'll put it all together when they have
Kelly,
it.
that makes sense. I'll work on that this afternoon, hopefully.
So you saw the restated and just added Custer.
Yeah, right.
I had one done, it slipped through the cracks, sorry.
Well, we can approve it. Find it.
Yeah, so it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Public comment? Which would freak me out if there was. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the Freecom IGA, say aye. Commissioner Flower, aye. Commissioner Kanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries. I will draft a signature page today and have to leave that with Kara. We probably need to create some kind of a box back there on your desk for commissioners, that when we come in, we can go there and see if something needs to be signed, or I know we have our mailboxes, but we don't want to leave it in one mailbox. So maybe a commissioner inbox.
You're going to sign this for all of us, right?
I thought we just
No, we're
agreed all
gonna
three
sign
of
it.
us.
We're gonna do
were
all
gonna
three.
I'm
It's
sorry,
a
I
new
misunderstood.
estate.
And Kelly will attest it. Maybe I will leave, well, we're gonna meet next week.
Say you'll be together next week.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I can draft it, sign it, leave it with Kelly. And as you come through
That's
the
fine.
county building, you can go in and sign it. Is that all right, Kel?
Sure.
And then when that happens, we can send it to Shannon and let him deal with it. I don't even know who the chairman of that group is, but I'm sure it's in there. Okay. I will get that going. Next item of business is consideration of the supplemental budget resolution 20-22. I would move that we adopt resolution 20-22.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 20-22, which is a appropriation of additional sums to defray the cost incurred on the Corner Verde Fire Mitigation Project in the amount of $30,000. Just further discussion? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to say for the record and for any public that might out there that this is a pass-through, that this is not coming out of property
Correct.
taxes, this is not a county expense.
Right.
So it's just money in, money out.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear.
Okay, yep, good point. Yep, this is grant money that was not budgeted, so we have to do a
Right.
appropriated budget amendment. Further discussion? Public comment? Which I got booted off. Are you guys still on Zoom or not?
I never was on.
Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of adopting resolution 20-22, say aye. Commissioner Flower, aye. Commissioner Kanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will sign that and give that back to Ms. Kara. We'll give it to Miss Kelly because she needs to sign it as well
And record it.
and record it. Next item of business, consideration of a county building employee Christmas card party. Had a discussion this morning with the office that was on the rotational schedule to host this. They have decided that they don't believe it's in the best interest of any of the county employees to get together for a Christmas party this year. So they gave me the thumbs down on it. So
Why this year or any other year? I'm just
Well,
kidding.
because-
I understand. I'm just kidding.
didn't know you were kidding.
They could have done it last year.
For the record.
So I don't know, we take no
We don't take any action.
action or that we need to formally let the county employees, county building employees know that we will not have a Christmas party, joint Christmas party. They can do whatever they want in their own offices, so. I would move that we allow county employees within their offices to do whatever they deem appropriate for a Christmas party, that we not have a combined Christmas party.
I'll say
Moved and seconded to authorize the individual offices to conduct their own Christmas parties in lieu of a combined.
put
Christmas
or
party.
not in there if you want. They don't have.
Yeah, if they want. Further discussion? Yes, sir.
I just want to say I commend whoever, the group that decided that it wasn't in the best interest. I agree with that decision and I appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
think it's reasonable. We don't need to take a lot of shots about doing things in the county building that we're telling the county they can't do. So I agree wholeheartedly. Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion to allow the individual officers to conduct their own Christmas parties in lieu of if they so choose, in lieu of a combined party, say aye. Commissioner Flower, aye. Commissioner Kenda,
Aye.
Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Motion carries. I have to tell you, gentlemen, honestly, I'm ready to bang the gavel after I say Commissioner Flower. I want to have the final vote apparently because I've been fighting that. Any further items of business to come before the Board of County Commissioners?
I have none, sir.
Public comment. Anybody has called in or wants to call in, now would be the appropriate time. Hearing none, chair declares the meeting adjourned.
Way to go, team.
Got through.